Super. Can you hear me all right? Fantastic. Crossing the river by feeling the stones. We've got 2 minutes left until the end of the schedule. This is a 25-minute presentation. So if it gets boring, just walk. Oh, it's going to be vastly too many. So we're going to talk about strategy, which is one of those subjects which normally makes everybody scream and run away. First of all, what do you think strategy is like in the boardroom of most companies? Do you think it's a game of chess, or is it alchemy, gut feel, and whatever's popular in the HBR? Second. Right, who thinks it's a game of chess? No one. Oh, fantastic. We have realists in the room. That's superb. I'm going to talk about something called topographical intelligence. I'm going to use 3 things to explain it, and then we're going to get into the issue of strategy. The 3 things are Vikings, Thermopylae, and chess world. So I'm going to start with Vikings. This is how Vikings used to navigate. They used to use stories. So from Herman, head due west towards half, and you will just glimpse, etc., etc. That means that. Now, maps turn out to be really useful navigational tools. You know this yourself. Every time anybody stops you and they've got a map, you give them directions, off they go. If they don't have a map, you give them a story. Like, it's up the road, turn left, turn right, etc. Then they drive off, and you're left with that moment of, did I send them the right direction? Possibly on purpose, because you're evil. So what would you use to navigate a ship? Quick question, story or a map? Map? Would you? Okay, what do you use to navigate your business? Story? Yes? Okay, super. Right, so maps are really powerful because they have certain characteristics, properties. They have position of pieces based upon an anchor, such as a compass. This is north or south of this. You also have movement as well. So the second example is Thermopylae, an ancient politician, Greek general known as Themistocles. He had a problem. The Persians were invading. He could defend around Thebes, defend around Athens. What he decided to do was to block off the Straits of Artemisium, force the Persians along the coastal road into Thermopylae, a narrow pass where a small number of troops could defend against a large force. There was about 4,000 Greeks, including 300 Spartans. Fantastic. So I want you to imagine it's the eve of battle. You're standing there. Themistocles is in front of you. He says, I have no map. I do not understand the landscape. I have a nice story, but have no fear, because I have created a SWOT diagram. Strengths, a well-trained Spartan army, high level of motivation not to become a Persian slave. Weaknesses, the E4s might stop the Spartans turning up. A truckload of Persians are turning up. Opportunities, get rid of the Persians, get rid of the Spartans or Athenian. We actually hate them. And Persians may get rid of us. That's the threat. And the Oracle says a really dodgy film might be produced a few thousand years later. Right, what do you think? What would you use to determine and communicate strategy in battle? A map or a SWOT diagram, a magic 2x2? Map, excellent. So what do we use in business? Fantastic, super. Right, so third example is called chess world. I want you to imagine you live in a world where everybody plays chess, but you've never seen the board. Now, how well you play chess determines your success in life. And you play the game very simply because you see these characters on a screen, you press a button, your opponent sees what you've pressed, they counter, you counter, they counter, and the game goes on for an awfully long time. Now, what will happen is the more games are played, people will grab these sequences, put them into their big data system, and discover magic secrets of success within them. So if you press knight, I should respond with rook, queen, king, or whatever it happens to be. And then one day you will play a game of chess against somebody who will see something magical. They will see the board. You will move, they will counter, you will move, and they will counter, and you will have lost. And you'll be there going, what the fiddlesticks happened? First thing you're going to do is copy down that sequence. Obviously, that's a magic sequence which is going to work, and of course you will lose. Then you'll start thinking, is it cultural? Maybe it's the speed at which they press the button. Now, I'm afraid you exist in what's called a low-level situational awareness environment. It's all about meme copying, secrets of success. They exist in a high level, context-specific. You will always lose. And the reason why they exist in this is, again, just like a map, a chessboard has position of pieces relative to an anchor, which happens to be the board, and movement. So the question I have for you is, what would you use to learn chess? Secrets of success and meme copying, or context-specific gameplay? Fabulous. And so what do we use to learn in business? Secrets of success and copying other people. Disagree? So chess and alchemy, the signs, navigation, learning, and strategy. Chess is visual, context-specific, you have position and movement. Alchemy is all about storytelling, secrets of success, and magic thinking, 2x2s. So if you look in the military and ask a military general, why do they bombard a hill? They don't tell you because 67% of other successful generals bombard hills, therefore that's what you do. They don't tell you that bombing a hill would make a good story, and they don't tell you because that's what Uber would do. But this is what we do in business. I'm afraid military is over there and business is over here. Very much in the world of alchemy. And everybody says, oh, that's not true, that's not fair, we are strategic. So I spent a year going around recording companies talking about strategy and came up with a list of business-level abstractions of a healthy strategy, or BLAs for short. Here they are: digital business, big data, disruptive, innovative, collaborative, competitive advantage, ecosystem, blah, blah, blah. Then I took their strategy documents and created a BLA template. Our strategy is BLA. We will lead a BLA effort of the market through our use of BLA and BLA to build a BLA. Then I combined the common BLAs and the BLA template to auto-generate 64 different strategies. Random gibberish. Let's go through them. Our strategy, number one, our strategy is customer focus. We will lead a disruptive effort of the market through our use of innovative social media and big data to build a collaborative cloud-based ecosystem. Number two, our strategy is innovative digital business. We will lead a growth effort of the market through our use of customer focus competitive. I can barely say the words. So I sent them round, 400 responses. This is more or less the exact wording from our business plan. I've seen 2 of these used already, and my favorite is, are you for hire? So a friend of mine has put this online. This is strategy as a service. If you ever need a strategy, just type in the URL and it will randomly create you one. And if you don't like it, press refresh. Okay, so does it really matter? Because then people say, oh, well, strategy, who cares? I'd rather have first-rate execution, second-rate strategy. Well, it turns out if you look at Silicon Valley, 160 different companies looking at their level of strategic play on the left against the use of open or action in this case to change a market, the bigger the bubbles, the more companies in that group. Supposed to be the top edge of competition. If execution mattered, they would be doing best. If strategy mattered, they would be doing best. And that's what the data actually looks like. Market cap changes over a 7-year period. So yes, Beeman's doctrine is that execution is the key to a strategy's success, is as flawed as it is popular. Roger Martin, The Execution Trap. But here's the good news. Everybody sucks. So it's okay, because no one gains an advantage. Here's the bad news. Not everybody sucks. There are some players out there who are very good at manipulating the market. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this next bit, which is about crossing the river by feeling the stones. How do you understand the landscape? How do you manipulate it to your favor? I'm going to go all the way back to Sun Tzu. Anybody know what Sun Tzu wrote? Fantastic. 5 factors important in competition. 1, purpose, your moral imperative, why you do something. 2, understand your landscape, the environment that you compete in. 3, understand climatic patterns. 4, understand doctrine, universal approaches. 5, you're into context-specific gameplay and leadership. Now, this is not a linear path. It's actually an iterative process, and it's best understood by the work of the mad Major John Boyd himself. You have the game, you observe it, you orientate around it, you decide what you're going to do, and then you act. So if you combine the two together, the game is your purpose. The first thing you need to do is observe the environment, the landscape and the economic patterns hitting you. Then you need to orientate around it with doctrine. Then you're into context-specific gameplay. So let's go through an example. Purpose. Back in 2004, I was CEO of a software company which did many lines of business, one of which was an online photo service, relatively small, 3 million odd users, something like that. First thing is to observe the environment. So I wanted to turn the business into a map, but all I had were things like business process diagrams and box and wire diagrams. Fairly useless. I need position and movement. So started off with user needs as the anchor, created a chain of needs, i.e. these things need these components. That gives me position relative to an anchor, but I need movement. Fortunately, there's a common pattern by which things evolve. You start off with the genesis of something, custom-built examples, products, rental services, commodity, utility services, all driven by supply and demand competition. So I could flatten that, and that gives me movement. So now I have a map. I have the user at the top, I have position relative to the user, and I have movement. Now, once you have a map, that's a learning tool that enables you to explore and understand an environment. So the next step is to go on to climatic patterns. And the first pattern you notice, well, other than the fact that patterns, by the way, are just the rules that influence the game. So things like, don't send your navy out into a storm. Not a good thing to do. Anyway, so you have a map. First pattern you notice, I took platform. You notice it's evolving due to supply and demand competition. So it has a future. It also has a past. And everything on your map is moving. Second pattern that you notice is that as it evolves, its characteristics change. It starts off in this uncharted space, uncertain, chaotic, unpredictable, long list of characteristics. It eventually becomes ordered, known, measured, standard, dull, boring. This is known as the Salomon and Story innovation paradox of 2002. Characteristics change. This is why there's no such thing as one-size-fits-all methodology. Agile in-house development is extremely good on the left-hand side for reducing the cost of change and encouraging experimentation, but it sucks compared to Six Sigma on the right-hand side when your goal is about reducing deviation. And both of them suck compared to when you need to reduce waste and learn where lean is actually best. So there's no one-size-fits-all methodology. Same with purchasing. You use VC-based approaches over here, more COTS all the way down to unit utility. Outcome is about there. There are about 40, 50 different patterns, and once you learn them, you can actually do some anticipation or predicting into the future. So, you know, with our map, platform and compute in 2005, we knew it evolved. We knew that people would have inertia because of past success. We knew it would cause explosions of higher order systems, componentization effects. We knew that higher order systems create new values of worth. It's all pretty bog standard stuff. So you can anticipate change. You also start to discover there are two different forms of disruption. There's product-product substitution, which you cannot anticipate effectively. And there's product-to-utility disruption, where something shifts from product to utility. You get disruption of past industries stuck behind inertia barriers. You get what's called a punctuated equilibrium, exponential change, and usually a co-evolution of practice that you can anticipate. And that's all that cloud has been about. Now, the best thing about these is you can use weak signal detection to identify roughly when it's going to occur. It's old data, but big data's already shifted into it, so it's shifted from products to utility already. So once you observe the climate, you can now do doctrine. So doctrine are the universally applicable approaches regardless of context. So high-speed rail. That's how we used to organize it. So we turned it into maps, and now we can go, right, no one-size-fits-all, so we know we need to outsource, use Six Sigma here, off-the-shelf products here, agile in-house developments over here. So that's 2011, 2012. So you learn to use appropriate methods. And then, of course, you learn to organize by it, so cell-based structures, or as Amazon calls it, two-pizza model. So you break down into small cells around those groups. And then you discover that, you know, you've got engineering, say, on one side and another, or finance, but different attitudes. So you need different cultures. So you create organizations based around pioneers, settlers, and town planners. Now, we don't have time, but if you want to read more about that, then GCHQ has very kindly open source Boiling Frogs, which is a document which will tell you all about cell-based structures and how to organize around that process of evolution. So once you understand doctrine, then you get into the leadership bit. So that's context-specific forms of gameplay. So we knew platform and compute was going to evolve. We could anticipate the patterns. This was 2005. So we had multiple wheres we could attack. Compute, platform, or wait till somebody else does it and we're attack above. And that leads us to why of strategy. There are two whys in strategy. The why of purpose. I want to be the best tea shop in the world, or I want to win the game of chess. And the why of movement. Why here, over there. So we decided in 2005 to build the world's first ever serverless platform as a service play, which had functional billing. We guessed that somebody else was going to do a compute utility play. I thought it was going to be Google, turned out it was Amazon. We knew how to build ecosystem models on top of this and exploit building on top of what we did. We knew we could accelerate this approach with an open source play. And so that's an example of context-specific gameplay. So the next step is acted, and that's what we did. We launched Zimkey, the world's first ever platform as a service, and it grew like nobody's business. Fantastic. And then Amazon launched. Brilliant. Then the parent company got some consultants in who said, cloud was not the future. In fact, the two other things we were doing, mobile phones as cameras and 3D printing, were also not the future. The future was 3D television. How many of you own a 3D TV? Who uses one? Excellent, superb. So I gave the models to various of my friends, including a friend of mine, James Waters, who basically is involved with Cloud Foundry and Pivotal, and he's following very much the similar sort of game, and now it's got a market cap of about 2.8 billion, which is fabulous news because it shows that context-specific play can be used from one to another industry, but more importantly, it gives me 2.8 billion reasons to hate consultants. I went on to Ubuntu, where we mapped out the environment, and we used exactly the same play in 2008 to attack the cloud, or exactly the same method. And we went from about 2% of the operating system market to 70% of all cloud computing in about 18 months, and it cost me a few £100,000. After that, I went on to government, and where I work, wrote something called the Better for Less paper, and we've been going around helping transform government. Strategy. 1. It's iterative. It's a cycle. It's not a linear path. You have to go through this process. 2, you need to learn by playing the game. You have to act. Can't read it from books. You have to do it. 3, understand your environment. If you can understand your environment, i.e. you have a map, then you can learn things like climatic patterns. You can start to anticipate change. You can learn where to attack, and you can learn context-specific forms of gameplay. If you don't have a map, you'll do all the sort of usual things of outsourcing too much, wondering why you get hit by change control, or going all agile, or all Six Sigma, or all lean, or doing some other form of yo-yo. Use stepping stones. Once you have a map, if you find that somebody else is building the components and playing the game well, don't go around rebuilding them. Build on top of it. And that's really what crossing the river by feeding the stones is all about. It's about having a direction and purpose. It's about iterating through the process. It's about acting. It's about understanding your environment and using stepping stones. Thank you.